Today on KUJH News, a Lawrence apartment development looks to City Commission to help solve the complex's current parking problems, how the city responded, and what's next for Here Apartments. The Lady Jayhawks take on the Texas Longhorns. We'll have the details on tonight's game. And Student Senate votes whether or not to impeach their top 3 executive members at tonight's full Senate meeting. KUJH News starts right now.
University of Kansas, you're watching KUJH News.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Jackson Kurtz. Student Senate hosts their first full meeting of the semester, and impeachment is the topic of the night. KUJH reporter Alex McClune is live in the newsroom. Alex?
Thanks, Jackson. Tonight, Student Senate will vote on 3 funding bills and a resolution for investigation into the KUJH voter ID law. Senate will then move on to the process of impeachment. The impeachment committee will begin by presenting their findings from their investigations into President Jesse Pringle, Vice President Zach George, and Chief of Staff Adam Moon. Senators will be able to ask questions to the committee over their findings. Once the questions are finished, Pringle, George, and Moon will all have allotted time to respond to the findings. The Senate will then vote separately on whether or not to impeach each member. A 51% majority vote will start the impeachment trial. The Student Senate meeting will be tonight at 6:30 at Alderson Auditorium. Reporting live from the newsroom, Alex McClune, KUJH News.
Thank you, Alex. A company's bankruptcy creates more problems for a Lawrence apartment complex. KUJH reporter Nick Price explains how limited parking could cause a holdup for some of the apartments.
Here at Kansas, the $75 million luxury apartment complex has hit yet another roadblock in their construction process, this time with parking. The manufacturer of the automated parking garage they planned on using recently filed for bankruptcy, and without the robotic parking system, the garage can no longer accommodate the number of spaces required by city code for a residency of its size. Here, developers petitioned the Lawrence City Commission on Tuesday night to propose a solution to the issue.
We, as the operator and owner of this building, have positioned this building to be the pinnacle experience of student living in Lawrence, Kansas. The parking component of that experience has to be equal to that.
However, the parking component is not quite there, and the commission rejected their request to move on with filling the apartments until the issue is resolved.
Not only does this affect the KU students who might be living there, but the overflow of parking could flow into the adjacent neighborhoods, an area that's already scarce for parking.
I kind of feel that the city's first obligation is to the neighborhood and the public and not to the developer. You know, they've gotten themselves in a pinch, but it seems to me that their pinch is going to pinch everybody else too.
Developers are looking for a new parking solution that could involve adding an additional garage just south of the complex, but a revised plan will not be presented to the City Commission for at least a few weeks. Reporting for KUJH News, I'm Nick Price.
City Commission has not yet set a date for the plan to be presented. Counseling and psychological services are asking for a potential increase in student fees to help align services with national standards. The national standard for students to therapist ratio is supposed to be no more than 1,500 to 1. CAPS currently has a ratio of 2,200 students to 1 therapist. CAPS is asking for a $10.60 increase to the $18.60 they now receive from student required fees. This year, KU students paid $455 in required student fees. The extra funding will help hire 6 new therapists and repay Burt Nash for services students received. The Pedestrian and Bicycle Task Force is asking for more funding to repair sidewalks in Lawrence. The task force has 2 recommendations to increase funding for sidewalks. One recommendation is to redistribute current taxes that are up for renewal in 2019. The second recommendation is to have an increase in taxes by an additional ½ cent. The money will then be used to maintain sidewalks that are already in use.
The new tax that we're recommending would offload that responsibility for sidewalk maintenance from the individual homeowner and really make it a city responsibility.
Hull says that Lawrence is in the top 6% in the country for percentage of residents who choose walking as their main type of transportation. KU Associate Professor of Curriculum and Teaching Heidi Hallman recently published her study, Teacher as Shapeshifter, exploring the intersection of new times and teaching of English language arts.
For students to be fully prepared in their futures as educators, current teachers need to adapt to the ever-changing times, according to KU Associate Professor Heidi Hallman. Hallman's new study examines how educators need to be flexible in order to succeed.
The idea of teacher as shapeshifter is really the idea that teachers need to take on new ideas about the role of teaching in order to be successful. Shapeshifter is a term used by a scholar named Jim G. to talk about people who really have a portfolio of attributes that they can kind of rearrange and fit into a particular settings.
Graduate student Mandy Cadle had only positive things to say about her educators preparing her, saying, like everything else, curriculums and teaching styles are going to change over time. They have to. I think our professors here understand that and do a good job setting us up for the future. Hallman expressed her passion for being an educator and how exciting it is to see her fellow professors have the same essence for teaching that she does.
I think education is really a fun area to work in because it's always changing and there's always things that are difficult, challenging, but always things that are hopeful. And so, if you want to be excited about your work, become an educator. I think many of the teachers I work with, they have that spirit within them. And I just want them to continue to have that as they go out and take positions.
For KUJH News, I'm Heather Dace.
A new Veterans Center on KU's campus is planned for next January. The university plans to center its resources for veterans on the 3rd floor of Summerfield Hall, pending the relocation of the business school. The center will house admissions and recruitment offices, counseling services, academics, and career searching. KU is currently searching for a director for the center. Coming up on KUJH News, it was a beautiful day outside, but will this nice weather continue for the rest of the week? We'll have the weather forecast next. And the water crisis in Flint, Michigan continues, but help is slowly arriving. What companies are lending to help a hand to the city when we come back? Stay with us. The weather outside today has been pretty nice for a January day, but will it continue into the week? Shane Martin is here with the weather. Shane, this week has been great so far. It's supposed to get better, but I'm not 100% sure. What can you tell us about the weather this week?
Well, we'll start with this afternoon, and thank you for watching. Today we have some high clouds out there, and the wind is blowing out of the southwest about 10 to 15 miles an hour, and we reached a high today of about 51 degrees right before 3 o'clock, and as we'll drop down to about 28 right before daybreak, and when we wake up at about 7, we're going to have partly cloudy skies, 30 degrees when you wake up, and as you go towards the noon hour, it'll be about 45 and sunny with winds out of the west-northwest at about 12 miles an hour, and we'll drop back down to about 40 at 6 o'clock. And moving on into the 3-day outlook for Thursday, again, will be about 49 for the high. Sunny, there's no rain for any chance this week at all. On Friday, we're going to be about 60, and the same thing on Saturday. And as we move into Sunday, we're going to drop down to about 51, and then we'll have to watch the beginning of next week for the chance of a storm. Back to you.
Thank you, Shane. Wow, it looks great weather this weekend. But all the outside sports are done, but inside, what can we look forward to?
Yeah, indoor sports, there's a lot going on this weekend. We have the ESPN College Game Day to look forward to, as well as women's basketball travels to Austin, Texas tonight to take on the Longhorns. And we'll have more on that if you stay with us. New KU women's basketball coach Brandon Schneider has had a rocky start in his first season. Going into tonight's game, the women's basketball team has 11 straight losses and only 5 wins on the season. They're only 3 losses away from hitting last year's season loss record. The women travel to Austin tonight to take on Texas. The Jayhawks have lost the last 6 games against the Longhorns. In the latest matchup between these two teams, Texas won by more than 35 points, which makes sense knowing that they're the second best offensive team in the Big 12. Tip-off is at 7 and will be televised on the Longhorn Network. The final indoor track meet of the season kicks off tomorrow. The Jayhawk Classic will host over 20 teams. One Kansas athlete is making major waves, nationally ranking 2nd in the hammer throw. Dana Levy is a woman in the spotlight. She has received the Big 12 Track and Field Female Athlete of the Week. And the first of the 4 events that will be held tomorrow are the men's heptathlon and will be held in the Anschutz Sports Pavilion. You may have heard that Kentucky is coming to town this weekend. Allen Fieldhouse is hosting College Game Day on Saturday for this much anticipated matchup. Doors to Allen open at 6:30 a.m. if you want to get into the game day fun. You're encouraged to bring fun and crafty signs for the morning show, which starts at 10. Kansas fans are hoping that the Jayhawks turn their loss to Iowa State into fuel to the fire to beat the Wildcats. Tip-off is at 6 and will be watched on ESPN. We have another Big 12 award this week. Haley Bishop was named Big 12 Swimmer of the Week by collegeswimming.com. This is her second Big 12 weekly honor this season. Bishop and the swim and dive team host Nebraska at Omaha this Saturday in the Robinson Natatorium. You can also tune in to ESPN 3. Now let's talk about something a little sweeter, and that would be chocolate. Yes.
Valentine's Day is coming up, and like a lot of other chocolate lovers, I'm going to get a ton of chocolate for my Valentine's Day, although I do not have to wait because today is National Chocolate Cake Day. And the delicious dessert deserves its own day as it has been around since the 1930s. The Duff Company of Pittsburgh introduced Devil's Food chocolate cake mix right before World War II. In the 1980s, chocolate cakes were popular, and today there are over 13 different types of chocolate cake. So everyone can find a cake to fall in love with. That makes me so happy. I love chocolate. I'm addicted to chocolate. Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, my favorite.
My favorite has to be Butterfingers. What about yours?
A brownie underneath some ice cream.
It's all delicious.
I know.
That does it for us here at KUJH News. Have a great night.